Okay, I'd like to call to order the Middletown City Council meeting for Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023. We'll start with a moment of meditation followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we take the roll, I'd like to make a motion to excuse Councilmember Muterspaw from this meeting.
Second.
Ms. Gang, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey.
Yes. Okay, will you do the official roll call for the meeting, please?
Mrs. Thomas,
Here.
Mr. Moon,
Here.
Mayor Condrey,
Here.
Mr. Farrell.
Here.
Okay, this evening we have a public hearing on the petition submitted to council proposing to establish the Renaissance Area District New Community Authority as a new community authority pursuant to Ohio Revised Code, Chapter 349. Mr. Metz, will you be the one presenting, or is there someone
Yes.
else? Yes, okay.
Our city planner, Metz, will present. Jacob.
Or Mr. Schultz.
Oh, he's doing the, I'm sorry. Our
pressure's
economic
on the spot if you
development
wanna go
manager, Jacob Schulte, will present.
Pinch hitter. No, I'm just kidding.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Jacob Schulte, Program Manager, subbing in for Nathan here tonight, but here to talk a little bit more about the public hearing as it regards to the proposed resolution to formally create the Renaissance Arena New Community Authority, and to aid in this whole overall, the New Community Authority, the NCA, is primarily designed to help aid in the financing and the planned development of the multi-purpose arena and everything else we got there going on at Renaissance Point. So overall, the NCA, it's coming up a little bit later on in the meeting, but it's a pretty major financing portion and a pretty major component and catalyst to the overall arena development and everything we got. So if you guys have any questions or anyone else in the public, happy to answer them however I can. So.
Great. Is that all of the materials that will be presented for the public hearing? Should we open that up to the public at this point?
We can open it up.
Okay. If anyone wishes to speak in favor of the public hearing topic, you may come up to the dais, state your name and address for the record, and we would be happy to hear from you. Okay, seeing no movement. If anyone would like to speak in opposition to the public hearing topic this evening, you're welcome to come on up to the dais, state your name and address for the record, and we would love to hear from you. Seeing no movement, we will close the public hearing and move on to citizen comments. We have, I believe, 2 citizen comments this evening. We'd love to listen to you for up to 4 minutes if you so desire. So we have Dora Bronston, followed by James Smarta. And please, again, state your name and address for the record when you come on up.
Good evening. Dora Bronston, 4817 Earl Avenue, Middletown, 45044. Mayor, Council, Mr. Lovely, and Ms. Skank. We're here tonight, me and my godson. I call him my nephew. This is Anthony Jago. I wanted to introduce him and let him talk a little bit about himself. He has received numbers of accomplishments and accolades, not only here at Middletown High School, but nationally. So this is Anthony Jago. Anthony?
Anthony.
Hello. Anthony Jagle, born and raised in Middletown, Ohio. I just moved to 2707 Outer Bond Drive, Apartment B in Middletown, Ohio. I was in 801 Elwood Street, which is like right up the street. I'm a professional MMA fighter. just like Kayla Harrison, just fought my professional debut in Miami, Florida. I won by first round submission. Sorry about that. So I was a graduation class of 2015 from Middletown. You know, I do help out with a lot of kids through high school wrestling, youth wrestling. Our Queen State of Grappling Club is our MMA gym. We were at the Power Station gym in Middletown, but we're now in Franklin, Ohio, which is on 2nd Street, which is like right up the block. If you go on Route 73, take a right on 2nd Street, we're right on the left-hand corner, right by Domino's Pizza and Gold Star Chili's. Just want to let you guys know what I do. I was wrestled for 15 years through middle school, through college. Got into MMA through September 2020. Just never looked back at my journey. You know, I'm a man of faith. I believe in God. You know, I feel like my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ has put me here for a certain reason, even though I'm very nervous talking to you guys. But I've been doing MMA for 3 years now. I travel a lot of places. You know, I went to LA last year for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Worlds. Took second there, and I went to the Pan American Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Games in Dallas, Texas last year. Took second there. I was 5-0 as an amateur fighter. Got an amateur title too in Easter weekend of this year, and then leading up months later, this past weekend, fought for my professional debut. And, you know what I'm saying, I just want to say thank you guys for allowing me being here, and I'm very proud to represent my city of Middletown, Ohio. Born and raised here. You know, I'm trying to take the steps as Kayla Harrison, Kyle Swarber, Vince Carter, any guys you think of, anybody you think of. So I just want to say thank you guys for allowing me to be here, and just try to help me out. Grow my brand as an athlete, to represent you guys. If you guys know anybody who would want to sponsor me in the future, I'm all open ears. You can follow me on Instagram at It's The Bagel. That's my nickname, The Bagel, Anthony The Bagel Jagle. I have a Facebook account. Like I said, I'm open-minded to a lot of things. So just come to me. Be respectful. I'm always going to treat everybody with respect and love and welcome. That's just how I am. And thank you guys for everything. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for representing Middletown. And congratulations on your win. That's exciting. We have one more citizen comment this evening. Jade Smarta.
Jade Smarta, 121 South Main. So I am here as a Middletown resident to comment on some public safety concerns. Last week, as some of you may know, a historic brick farmhouse on South Verity Parkway burned. There's been pretty minimal coverage in the press, but I trust that a thorough investigation is in progress, and I hope that we learn that the loss of this historic home had nothing to do with trespass or other crimes. But so often, it's the case that with destruction like this, there is an element of trespass or other crimes. I think we all remember the barely controllable warehouse fire 2020, and I know from experience some of the destruction that can be caused by trespassers, because for a time there were strangers regularly breaking into a house that was then vacant next door to us on South Main. The new owner showed us the trespassers' syringes and other waste. It got better for a time. We've been in touch with council. We call the MPD. They've been great. They're responsive. But I know that it's important that we, keep you guys updated on developments and what we're seeing. So even though there's been some progress, I just wanted to let you know that my neighbors and I are seeing some more troubling signs, not just on South Main, but around Middletown, including on South Verity, like we mentioned. For example, recently, upon returning home from a walk with her dog recently, my other next door neighbor found a woman who appeared to be under the influence lying on her front yard. We regularly see strangers congregating and camping in our alley at all hours of day and night. Not too long ago, 2 neglected, starving pit bulls pushed through a gate in my yard and mauled a cat, and it's a fully fenced-in yard. They pushed it down, they got in, and they killed an animal, and that's not okay, but I just, we've got kids in our neighborhood, and it just, thinking about the even worst case scenarios is part of what brings me here. So we wanted to, as a city, we talk about wanting to improve our town, the livability of our town, entryways to our town, the desirability of living in our town. There's so much great progress happening, but these are the types of things that can make it really hard. So now on South Verity, we've got this we've got at our entryway for visitors coming north on Route 4, they're greeted by the charred remains of an old historic house that was once beautiful. And I'm here because I'm asking and encouraging as a city to try to prevent more danger and irreversible damage before that farmhouse becomes the sad, symbolic welcome mascot of our city. Again, we have some really great things happening here, but if we want to keep them, I think we really need to make sure we're devoting as many resources as possible to enforcing existing laws, making actual arrests when appropriate, and just sending the message to trespassers and others breaking our laws that as a city, Middletown won't tolerate dangerous and criminal behavior. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have your contact information?
I'm not sure if, Ashley, are you aware, that was a private property? Is that right? We didn't own that as a city, did we?
I'm kind of worried that that's actually outside the city.
It might be. I
be in
noticed
Middletown.
also that the fire it's a beautiful house.
The fire, what was on fire last week was in the city, but I think the house, I'll follow up with you tomorrow and confirm that.
What was the address?
That's the house I'm thinking of.
It's in front of Cohen.
The media reported it as a 3100 block of South Verity. I don't know if that's correct, though.
Yeah, I think it might be township property.
It may be.
Yeah.
We'll check.
Regardless, your point is taken. Obviously, it's not just that house, so I don't want to downplay that either. And it was a beautiful farmhouse, too, so thanks. Okay, that brings us to council comments. Mr. Farrow, would you like to start this evening?
Thanks, Mayor. I don't really have any comments, but to Mr. Jagle, I grew up with your brother, so I've followed your career and what you're doing forever. So we're all rooting you on. I'm friends with a bunch of the wrestlers that are, 5 years older than you, so I've been following your career, and it's exciting. So just keep on pushing. I know you and people like Latrell Davis, I know you guys are going all over the world right now, so just keep pushing. We're all rooting you on. Yep, that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Mrs. Thomas.
I don't have much to add, but I appreciate the excused absence. 2 weeks ago, I had a very nice time in California and missed you all very much, but I appreciate the excused absence and don't really have anything else to add. But congratulations on your wins, and keep on going and keep on doing good things and representing Middletown where you are and telling people you're from Middletown with pride. I appreciate that. Thanks.
Mr. Moon.
Yeah, I didn't really have anything either, but I would just echo my colleagues' comments. You're a great example, so many others that you mentioned. Nothing that you can't achieve coming from Middletown. So keep pushing and we'll keep rooting for you. That's all I have.
Thanks. Well, I'm going to follow on that topic as well. And I know for me, competing, I sometimes ask myself why, like what is the purpose behind it? Because it feels at times selfish, but I hear where you're giving back and you have found your why as to why you're competing, which is awesome. And finding the why is what's going to drive you. So I love that Middletown is your why and that you're using that to drive you to success, and that is cool. So thank you. Yeah, that's all I have tonight, so nothing else. Mr. Lawley, that brings us to city manager reports.
Thank you, Mayor, members of City Council. Tonight, we have a few things under the city manager report, and to begin, I want to introduce representatives from Miami University Middletown to talk to you about a program called Miami Middletown Rising, which they are seeking partners for this program, and staff thinks it's a worthwhile program that the city may want to do some investment in. So I'm going to let Amanda Means and Sammy Broyles present Miami Middletown Rising program to you. So thank you guys for coming.
Thank you so much, Paul. Thank you, Council and Mayor, very much for having us. As the City Manager said, my name is Amanda Means. I am the Regional Director for Enrollment Management on our regional campuses in Hamilton and, of course, in Middletown. My area covers financial aid, our billing and registration, and our admission office.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Paul, thank you. I'm Sammy Broyles. I am the Regional Director of Community and Alumni Engagement. Not a stranger to Middletown at all, even before my role here at Miami. Always taking home, I grew up in Hamilton, but family members, as you know, are closely related, and Uncle still stays on Baltimore. So spend a lot of time off Minnesota and hanging out at Sunny Hill.
But thank you so much for having us tonight to be able to present a proposal for our Miami Middletown Rising program, which is a program where we want to be able to provide free, debt-free attendance to Miami University regionals for students that are going to be graduating from high schools in Middletown. I have some slides. You have some printouts there for the council members and the mayor, and then we've also got some information to present here in front of the group today. Just a rundown of what this proposal is and this program is. Again, we would provide free 2-year and 4-year degrees from Miami Regionals to Middletown students that have financial need. So students that may, if they're filling out information that you would consider having Pell Grants or would need financial help to attend college. The how would be Miami Regionals and different Middletown partners. We will cover the remaining cost of tuition and fees for any Middletown, Marshall, Middletown Christian, and Bishop Fenwick students with demonstrated need after their grants and scholarships, and cover the rest of their costs so that they can finish and complete their degree each year. The why, there are a lot of fantastic reasons, and a lot of these are supported by studies and have really great results for communities. But it can increase success or access for students, not only for students that have started their degree or thought they were on a college path, but for students that may not have thought that college or a degree program was in the stars for them. It also can improve student success for students if they're not worrying about how their bill gets paid or making payments on their tuition. Then, of course, that allows them to concentrate on when they're in school. College going rates, so just like I said, access, and for areas that maybe aren't seeing as many students as we'd like, going on to do 2-year and 4-year degree programs. Degree attainment, the more it's accessible and they can be successful, the more likely they are to graduate and get those degrees, and then of course use those in the community. And then it has a lot of great impact on economic development, so a lot of great impact on the community as we have more students that are graduating and staying here in the area. This is just a little additional detail on how those things come to be. How do we get to impact access and success? One of the biggest ways that the program could help students in Middletown is removing some of those financial barriers, eliminating or highly reducing student loan debt for students, reducing their time to degree. I know we have a lot of students that might stumble along the way, maybe not hit a barrier, but this can help them stay on track to finish their degree. Increasing retention and graduation rates. And then in particular, programs like these impact students that maybe have a low SES, students of color, and students that might be more likely not to go on to college. So it can increase the college going rates and degree attainments for particularly at-risk areas or students that are in the area.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. And why we want to do the Miami Middletown Rising? We thought about 3 crucial pillars to the city of Middletown, and really wanted just to kind of everybody understand that the synergy around what we're talking about, what we're describing with this program lines up with the mission of not only the Community Foundation, who's been vital in many different endeavors here, but the city of Middletown itself and Miami University Regionals, who started their actual regional campuses first here in Middletown. So if you go through the mission and you see that, you see the correlation, how they all align. Not only do the missions correlate, but also the vision. The vision also comes together as far as creating and pursuing and executing initiatives that target immediate community needs. This is an immediate community need as far as access to higher education. I will go into some numbers here in a few slides just so we can kind of go deeper in that. And also, this is a part of building resilient neighborhoods in Middletown and a thriving economy in Middletown and a strong infrastructure for healthy and safe and pride in community, because we know that with degree attainment, it's going to allow the jobs that are coming here, the great economic investment that's happening for people that's in this community, as students, a Middletown student will have the opportunity to be qualified for some of those upper management roles, not just entry-level roles. So we're not outsourcing those jobs to other neighborhoods. And also aligns up with the vision of Miami University Regionals, because we really, truly believe in empowering the mind and strengthening communities. Make sure I get this right. There you go. And then this slide right here is very important because I feel like it really illustrates what we're talking about, the importance of the need. If you see Middletown City School District, Middletown City, I just talked to the school district yesterday. The median household income is $47,116, and then it's also $25,000 roughly per capita. And then if you look at the other number, the 15.8%, that's the average, that is the actual Census Bureau for the degree attainment of citizens here in the city of Middletown. And we put some numbers there to kind of comparable, because Hamilton and Middletown are pretty similar if you look at the degree attainment rates. But if you see a city like Westchester and Mason, those degree attainment rates jump up significantly. And if you see that as well, you see the median household income jumps up at both those cities and respectively to the actual per capita income per person. So there's a direct correlation between income capacity and also building with bachelor degrees, and also that leads to other things like taxpayer dollars and having a workforce that's ready. And then one of the impressive things that a Miami University degree offers is a $57,050 was the average salary coming out between regional graduates over last year, over 2021. And with the high school diploma on the Census Bureau, it's about $25,000. So you're talking about with a degree attainment, with students having that ability, you're talking about how we address equity, how we address poverty in our community, how we uplift a community by the bootstraps, as one might say, or give them boosts to put on. This degree attainment, having this ability to do that, will actually raise the per capita more than double across the city with students that would go into this program. So that's life-changing just per individual, but also per family if you start building that back too as well. As we know, the marriage rates go up too with graduations. So a lot of stats people know about the lifetime earnings with a bachelor degree versus high school diploma. That's over $1 million. That's also over $1 million in tax revenue. That's also $1 million that's going back into the economy here in Middletown, because a lot of people, one thing we know about regionals, once they're here, they actually stay here. And if we look at it, thinking about a healthy social capital and thinking about our greatest asset in this community is the people, because the people here, if we don't invest into them, we can only grow as much as they grow. So if we think about business development and a talented workforce, we got to have the people prepared for the talent that you're going to need to help serve that group. And also, we got to look at the trends and the economic growth and taxable income, the consumer spending. And then one thing we know that happens when bachelor degree attainment goes up is that home ownership simultaneously rises as well. So we think about some of our properties that sometimes are nuisances, and I heard that today about worrying about people. Well, if somebody actually owns that home, somebody can't really trespass on that property. So you're actually solving some of these issues where HPD can focus maybe on some different things than some of the new nuances with home ownership going up. There's a direct correlation with crime rates dropping in those areas, whereas more homeowners, and then also property value rises, because versus when somebody owns a property, they're going to make sure they're investing into that property and keeping it up. So and then you can look at the overall lifespan. As I know, there was a big focus on kindergarten readiness. I was around when that push happened and that big launch. Well, with bachelor degree attainment, the kindergarten readiness rates is more than double versus families who don't. So these kids are coming in better prepared, and that means they're already set up for success at the very beginning versus trying to fix the symptom instead of the root cause early on, later on. And then the average lifespan too of individuals with these kind of degrees also goes up as well. And I'll let Amanda take over.
Thank you, Sammy. This is where we get into a few of the proposed requirements. So what form would the program kind of actually take shape? What would we need from students? Who would the students be? How many of them would there be? And a few different things like that. So overall, there's definitely a lot of great reasons to do it, but this is kind of what it would look like if we did have the funding and go forward with the program. Some of the proposed requirements that we established, and again, as we develop our partnerships and are looking at launching a program, we'll finalize some of these, and some of these can be up for discussion. But some things that we had in mind were them being a resident of Middletown, so that they live in the city in Middletown. Students that could qualify would need to attend Middletown, Marshall, Middletown Christian, or Bishop Fenwick high schools and be graduates. One idea we played with is having them attend those schools in high school, 9 through 12, to qualify for the scholarship. If a student maybe moved from one of those schools and stayed in the city, they would still be eligible. We would encourage the students to have a 2.5 high school GPA to meet the requirements to come in. That GPA is still a student that's likely to be able to be successful working towards their GPA, but maybe give a chance to a student that might not have been on what we would call a college prep track, or somebody that might have been thinking about that to start off. Requirements when they're in the program, we would want them to be full-time degree-seeking students, so they're working towards that degree. Maintain a 2.0 whenever they get to Miami and when they're going through their courses. Pell eligibility, and for those that might not be familiar, Pell eligible students, they complete the FAFSA. The FAFSA will let us know, depending on income and different assets for their household and their family, if they may benefit from a Pell Grant, qualify for a federal Pell Grant. That's how we would determine if they had financial need. That would be our mechanism for determining need. And then in addition to the requirements, we had a few recommendations to help ensure that they're successful. One of those would be to enroll in our TRIO program, and our students that are Pell eligible would automatically qualify for that. And our TRIO program is a set of student supports and follow-ups in a program that helps students while they're in college. Study skills classes, staying on top of their assignments, communication about different processes that they might not know about as a first-time college student, working with them on their GPA, and really just a lot of those skills and the know-how of what it's like to be a college student. And then, of course, they have follow-up and kind of, I don't want to say aggressive, but really in-depth engagement with those students to keep them going to class and being successful. We'd also encourage our students to complete one Miami College Credit Plus course or join our early college academy that we have at Middletown High School. This will allow the students to go ahead and try a college course while they're in high school. It lets them go ahead and knock a credit out that the state kind of pays Miami for, and it gives them that experience and goes ahead and engages them with Miami. We're originally hoping to launch a program that can impact students that are going to graduate in the spring and attending fall 24. The costs that we would cover, so what students would not need to worry about, would be their tuition and fees. And we would use all grants and university scholarships first before we would start applying our Miami Middletown Rising program funds. So that would include those Pell Grants, so federal Pell Grants first towards tuition. And many students that might be full Pell would have very little cost that we would need to cover so that they can attend free. Any merit scholarships, so students that have a certain GPA that qualify for a merit scholarship from Miami, we would award that first, well before our partnership funds. ECA and CCP scholarships, we currently have a scholarship for students that do participate in that program. And then any third-party scholarships, so scholarships they may get from a different foundation, those crazy scholarships we hear about for being left-handed, or any of those other ones, we would apply those first before we start using other funds. So it would cover those last remaining dollars. We would award those students as they're attending fall and spring, and then have a limit of 4 years or 8 semesters for our students. All right. Obviously, we want to look and see who would we be impacting with this program. So we went ahead and pulled some different numbers from our past couple of years for Miami Regionals to see if we imagine what the program might look like in the first year, in the first couple of years, what would those student groups look like? And this is an estimate from Middletown High School, Bishop Fenwick, Middletown Christian, and Marshall High School, how many students we might be able to anticipate based on some of our trends from the last few years, their Pell eligibility, scholarship eligibility. And we'd estimate about 15 students from Middletown High School coming in, 2 students each from Bishop Fenwick, Marshall High School, and Middletown Christian. So we would have a few students that we would impact. Now, this is based on our past trends. As we start this program, launch it, have other partners that are joining us, we would definitely want this to be able to expand. And as students hear about it and know when they're in high school and they're first starting their 9th grade year, they know how they have something that they can work towards and something to achieve. They have that kind of there at the end for them. But this is how we would estimate some of the numbers that we're going to see here. This is kind of an estimate of what the program might look like for students starting in that first year. Again, 15 Middletown High School and then 2 each from Bishop Fenwick, Marshall, and Middletown Christian. So we would have 21 students starting in that first year, that first cohort, after we apply Pell Grants and other scholarships. Miami's planning to do a contribution too on top of our scholarships, and then we have some funds that we would have remaining. But in all, for that first year, it's about $63,000 to cover those last remaining costs for 21 students. So we have 21 students going completely free. That means they don't need to take out a loan from the federal government. Their parents don't have to take out a Parent Plus loan or anything like that. They won't have a bill that they'll need to take care of. As we start to get into our second years, 25, 26, 26, 27, and 27, 28, we start adding cohorts to it. And if you look at the 27, 28 cohort, that's what the program would look like as we continue it past kind of those first 4 years, because at any time we'd have 4 cohorts going at the same program. So that puts our annual cost at about $218,000 before Miami's additional contribution, but after scholarships and Pell Grants and things like that. Kind of totaled up what that first 4-year group would look like too. And then we also broke out and just wanted to do some estimations on if we were able to have a contribution that would allow us to do an endowment, so that way we can pull from those funds on a regular basis and far, far into the future and continue to impact students in 2030, 2031, 2032.
Yeah, and just to get a little bit more into the details of why, personally I feel a endowed fund would be very beneficial as far as an investment with the city of Middletown and to the students and to these futures, is because this is a dividend that one day each and every one of us in this room will not be here anymore, but will continue to pay and help students years from now. So if you think about what $500,000 could do, and it could do a lot of things, facelifting the streets. I know we got a lot of different issues that need investments, but those things will depreciate over time again and need those investments again. This is an investment that will continue to appreciate, because what you're going to create is an environment where, if at the minimum with $20,000, that serves 7 students. That's 7 kids every year going into college, coming out as another well-educated employee that's going to be qualified for your higher paying jobs. Another 7 students every year that's going to be turned into homeowners here in the community and be productive citizens. And if you really think of that just 1 year, think about that over 50, right? 50 years, you're talking now 350 students impacted, Middletown students, not just any other student, a Middletown student from this city that would be impacted. 100 years from now, when we're not here no more, that's 700 students that would have been impacted by a decision made today, where tomorrow, it's a lot of things that can happen. If you compound that in the next 200 years, you're talking 1,400 students. So when we're long and gone, and that's just the 20,000 that we're asking, but there will be a lot more than that if you add in all the other contributions that we're seeking, and we will be able to provide. This is changing the storyline of a lot of students who woke up one day maybe thinking college wasn't an access, or college wasn't acceptable because my family don't have the means to do this. And I was just told I'm supposed to go work a coal and be an operator or be a technician, but I'm never really told that I can actually be the manager or the leader of an organization. So, and I know a lot of these things personally. I've seen it with my own wife, where she got into a corporate 500 company, so she got to a certain level of supervisor. The only thing stopping her was a college degree. She had more experience than other people, a lot of other things, and that's the difference between a $40,000 increase in her salary and not. Now, I would hate to see that happen for other students and other people, because I lived that experience. So right now she's grinding to get her bachelor's degree later in life. But it's one of those things that, I feel like if we do this, we're making a tremendous investment into the future of our city and the future of our residents here in this community. And we definitely want to open up for any questions from you guys, because I truly believe that the impact that we can make with this is phenomenal. And I almost forgot this slide, is that 90%, this is very important, of the Middletown students will stay in this area and contribute. That's our data that we have proven over the last few years. Also, that average salary, and every dollar, this is another study that's been proven, that's been invested in Miami University, has also produced in a student $4 more in lifetime earnings for that person that dollar is invested into. Also, $5.90 for every dollar in taxpayer revenue for the areas where they live at in the public sector, and also in society as an overall, when they're spending money, $6.40 cents, because they're reinvesting and spending money here, supporting local businesses that need that local citizen to be able to help them thrive. And this is a place where they can live, grow, and play, and we truly believe that by also arming them with the tools to be successful. thank you guys too.
Yeah, of course, for any questions. And Sammy and I could talk about this probably for ages and ages and ages, but we definitely kind of did this condensed. So we are open to questions now and of course in the future too. But one thing, we were just talking with some folks from the Middletown schools, and we were talking about students that maybe they were thinking about this and they just thought it was so far out of reach in thinking about the Pell Grants and getting on a payment plan and different things like that. Having programs like these that are really recognizable for the students and for their families to have free tuition is really valuable. Thank you.
I'm curious on the requirements. I don't think it said anything about them needing to be freshly out of high school. Are we talking about kids who just graduated, or can they take a year off? Can they put in 2 years and maybe something happens and they have to come back and take the other 2 later? Is it flexible in that way?
That is an excellent question. And as we're developing the program, we haven't thought of all the contingencies of who the funds would be for. Another thing that we definitely have to consider is, depending on how many students we can help, do we want to start with first-time new students going into their first year? As we build up more funds, maybe more endowments, as we have more, we could scale it up to adults, to students that might be transferring back to the area, students that might have stopped out at Miami and then come back. So these numbers were formulated on our traditional students. They're going from their high school year into their first year, but depending on our funding and how again, these are proposed requirements, we can definitely expand that to whoever we'd like.
And I guess similarly too, I see that the number of cohorts doesn't just double each year.
It does
That,
not.
we're accounting a little bit for the fact that some of these students aren't going to make it past their first year.
You're absolutely right. So one thing, and I'll get to that slide really fast, these numbers are based on the average retention rate for students that go into their first to second year,
Okay.
second to third. Middletown students on average actually retain a little bit less than our average students, so this is actually a little bit of a high estimation, but that's why we think the programs like the TRIO programs are very, very important. And these are students based maybe not on the success of the program. So we're hoping a program where they know all 4 years are covered gives them incentive to retain and continue and graduate. So these are based on our average retention rates, so losing some students.
And then I just had one more question, and I'll let my fellow council, I'm sure they have questions as well. Being that our numbers in Middletown are so similar to the numbers that the city of Hamilton, say, represents, are you or have you already pursued a program similar to this for the city of Hamilton and for the high school students in Hamilton? And what has the reception been?
We are simultaneously having the same conversation with the city of Hamilton right now, and it's been really well received. We're in a place where everybody's saying yes, and they're trying to figure out how much now at this point. That's what we're waiting on. We're moving the ball forward, and we think it's going to be a game changer for both communities. But but here, that would be answering your question, yes. And, yeah, that's what I was going to say is that when we're talking about this degree, like requirements for this program, this is a program that we want the community to walk alongside us as far as the leaders. So we are interested in hearing, like we talked to the city school district, that's what we were talking to them about. What do you see making this successful? What kind of students do you have that you think this is going to impact the most? Because I have an idea, because I was a student one day back in that needed kind of a third or fourth chance to finally get there to graduation as a non-traditional student with 3 kids. But one of those things that we want to make sure that we do is partner and hear from our community leaders as we're saying, you know what, we're seeing that really the demand is those adults who need to come back, or that we're open to having those discussions as well. Nothing's set in stone, but this is what we're starting as our point, and we're working together with we're hopefully, the community to make this happen.
Yeah, and just looking at the program requirements, we don't really have a deadline set. We don't really have any other paperwork requirements, but depending on if we only can serve a small number and have to scale that down, there might be other things that we'd like to work, again, with our partners to figure out.
2 questions on the endowment piece. Who's being asked to contribute to the endowment, and would those endowments be unique or specific to the communities? Or is it one big pot of $500,000 for any community that's being served?
Great question. So the endowment specifically, we're asking the city of Middletown, and we're also talking to the Community Foundation here in Middletown, and every endowment would be just for its community. So Miami, of course, contribution, that's earmarked just for this community, the contribution that Miami has, and we will only use dollars from Middletown, on Middletown residents, and then also the same for Hamilton. Their Hamilton Community Foundation, their city has also been being spoken to, and Hamilton dollars will be used just for Hamilton students as residents. So it wouldn't be no blending or mixing of use of funds.
So you're asking the community foundation, the city, the schools, but private donors would be kind of a separate conversation.
That's a separate, but yeah, we're going to be talking to them too, absolutely. That's where the gap's going to get covered at through private donations.
And the 500,000 definitely is not the limit, which this is kind of benchmarking and showing how many students that would impact.
Okay.
Do we have data on how many, hang on. Do we have data on how many individuals from these schools have completed the FAFSA form but do not go on to universities?
I'm sure, I don't have that off the top of my head, but we definitely have students that start the FAFSA and don't finish the FAFSA, start the FAFSA and get selected for verification and get stuck there, students that start the FAFSA and just decide not to enroll. We do know that overall for our Miami University students, at the regional campuses, our biggest competitor isn't another college. One of our biggest competitors is a student not going on. So more than half of our students that apply and get accepted are choosing not to go anywhere. So, and that's a variety of different reasons why they might not have completed the FAFSA, but I could absolutely provide that for us.
Yeah, I'm just wondering because the program is contingent on the FAFSA being completed, and I know it's not the easiest, most straightforward, simple document. And part of my question is, do we need to be, first of all, just helping people get the FAFSA done, period?
Absolutely.
And
we didn't get into some of that.
We did talk about that too, so.
Again, we tried to pare down, but we do talk a little bit usually about preparing students in their 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade year so that they know that the scholarship exists, so they know that that 2.0 is important, and then when they get into their junior and their senior year, helping them with their FAFSA, in addition to what we do and can serve on campus if they come to campus in our orientation, but in the schools. Students that participate in ECA would have that built right in there to them. Again, the FAFSA right now is the mechanism for determining financial need.
Right.
And that allows us to also use funds from the federal government to help us cover some of this. But if we find that we need to rely on other things, or that the students we really want to partner with aren't filling out the FAFSA, we would definitely want to include some more measures to help them with that.
And we just met with the school district yesterday, literally. And one of the things that one of the counselors was talking about is that she would love to have this tool early on in 9th grade, talking about how we can get you here. And then also she's going to work hand in hand with them, and she knows that, it can't just be a phone call and say like, oh, here you go, this is what you do, but you need somebody to say, hey, did you do that? Did you follow up? I'm gonna call the parent. Did they get it done? And go that extra step to make sure we're working side by side with the students. So they're not gonna be on this walk alone. And then also us as Miami University, we have stepped up to be adoptive school partners too as well with the city of Middletown. So we're in 2 classrooms. So we're gonna be having these conversations with kids in 4th grade and 5th grade as well. So this not gonna be brand new to them when I get to the high school. We're gonna be planting them seeds early on. They should hear it more than once because they have us in 4th and 5th grade. So they should hear about this and kind of know and get them excited. We're gonna bring them on campus and things like that. We're planting the seeds, and one plant, one water, and then the increase happens above. But that's one of the things that we want to make sure we're doing.
So, question. So, if a student goes to Miami for 2 years, then decides to drop out for whatever reason, we know there's a million reasons for that, they would not owe any money back, correct?
That's right. So what we would do, I know this kind of gets pretty technical, but the funds that we would have while they're there, we would award that to them so they don't have a bill. So it would cover all of their tuition that they would have. So let's say halfway through that semester they withdraw, their bill had already been taken care of with our scholarships, and then this promise to cover the rest, they wouldn't have an outstanding bill.
Okay.
And they still got their credits, so if they ever want to come back,
Yeah,
they might not be in that program, but they still have their credits to continue.
Right. So, Paul, you might know the answer to this. I know at one time Hamilton did, or at least they talked about some type of program where after said student graduates and they come and live in Hamilton, you guys might know about this.
Yeah, I know about it.
Yeah.
So if they're there for, 3 or 5 years or whatever, their loans are, I don't know if they're paid off completely or...
They pay them $10,000 like a stipend to come live there.
So they essentially get incentivized to come back and live in their community afterwards. So I sort of see this as a 2-part series. So let's get them in here, let's keep them in Middletown, let's get them educated. But then as to your guys' points, people with bachelor's degrees, unfortunately, they are leaving here. I mean, yes, they're staying in Ohio, but they're going to Mason, they're going to Westchester. And this goes back to the same thing as the Butler Tech hangar. Are we educating other cities' people where they're disposing their incomes in other cities. So how can we as a city not just educate them here, but what can we do to keep them long term? I don't think it's as simple as let's just throw some money at it. You know, we're essentially, if we're going to be spending taxpayer dollars, it has to be something that's going to suffice the city long term in general. And I'm not like, I don't think this is bad. I'm not trying to beat this up. But this has to be, I think, in my opinion, we have to see a longer picture than just educating our people, but we have to be able to keep their incomes here long term as well. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
And I totally agree with that. And I think the evidence of that is you have a $300 million investment coming in right over here on Alpha 75. And then off of that one investment, I'm pretty sure Paul's gonna be really smart and he's gonna leverage another investment and you're gonna get more investment. And then as you continue to get more investment in this community, the companies are coming. I mean, I've seen it in Hamilton. It started with the Markham Park. It was a $4 million investment in a park. Then it led to Markham Apartments. That Markham Apartments led to Spooky Nook. Spooky Nook's now leading to 4 different hotel developments. Now you got 80 acres and all these other different projects are coming in because people want to invest where people are investing in too. So with that big win already, people are coming. It's just a matter of, are we going to have the workforce to be able to keep
I'm agreeing with you. So I guess that's sort of my point is Hamilton, what they strategically did was they tried to bring in young people with disposable incomes that didn't have families to pay for yet. All these things. And this is important too. We look at students that are graduating with all this student debt, right? And they come out, they can't save $1 for a down payment for a house. So how do we fix that? Oh, well, let's give them a grant for a down payment. So it's like, we're giving a grant here, we're giving a grant there. What can we do to set people up for success, which I understand is important. But I don't think it's just, I think that, I don't know, maybe I'm looking too far ahead here, but if I were to do something like this, I think we have to do something on the back end too to try to incentivize people to spend their money here. So that's, but I also know that I brought this up to people before, and they say, why would we pay off people's their student debt? Well, this is doing it, but with no accountability tied to it. So that is this in a conversation of what's better, what's worse. There's no accountability here. Yes, you're giving someone opportunity, but I know I was a mom kid. I know all my friends that were mom kids. To me, and everybody's situation is different, but it wasn't a matter of a couple $1,000s whether I went to mom or didn't go to mom, right? So I just want to make sure that I realize what I sound like right now, and I don't sound popular, but I just want to make sure we have other things tied to this to make sure it's successful.
Absolutely. And we're willing to build that out with the council and let them decide what kind of parameters maybe need to be in place. Is there if I don't finish, then is there, is it a forgivable loan? I don't know. Does it turn into a,
So the Butler County NHS, what they do with like down payment assistance for homes, like they have a 5-year thing. And so let's say they get $5,000. Well, it's, if they sell the house 3 to 4 years, they have to pay a certain percentage of that back so more taxpayers can use that money, which I don't see this as why it should be really any different personally. That's just me.
And we're willing to, like I said, this is a community. We just started with a reference point, and we're willing to evolve with the community of what the needs are and meet them. I totally, do not disagree with anything you're saying. That's one of the things that, we're just trying to eliminate barriers. That's my main thing.
Yeah, definitely.
And what I think, and I truly believe, is that with everything that's happening here, the narrative is changing where people do want to stay here. I don't see people with a bachelor's degree just saying, hey, I'm out of Middletown as soon as I get here. When you got the kind of investment that's coming into the city that's think people work and play. I just seen a festival not too long ago. It was like crazy over here at the park, Smith Park, and it was all packed. With so much stuff happening and the city kind of growing, and downtown's got this big renovation. You got all these nice restaurants. A lot of things for people to do where I can raise my family here and actually like bring back the golden years of Middletown, right? It's coming back. You guys are doing that. So I think people will stay, here. That's just my personal opinion, as from what I hear. And then also thinking about that, even with that great program that you're mentioning that Hamilton got, they're still looking at this very seriously because they know they need to do it. Because they're running into the issue of, we got businesses here like ODW, they need people with bachelor's degrees in these roles. And they're paying great wages, $50,000, $60,000. These be their office type of roles. It's not heavy labor, so that's somebody later on in life. My back's not about to be broken. I can actually enjoy life a little bit better. And they're coming. That's why I do know that's happening. Yeah.
I do like the idea of setting a goal for these students that if they finish their 2-year degree, if they finish their 4-year degree, this is the incentive that you can see on top of all of this waiting for you at the end. And so maybe it is some sort of combination of those two programs where we not only get them educated, but also get them to stay here.
if you'd be able to target them, we could help you target them. And then I know we didn't talk much about career services and partnerships like that, but in looking at this program and having people that participate, we could be really active with our career services and the businesses in Middletown for recruiting those students that they know aren't going to have debt, that are going to be in a great place to own a home, so that they may be able to recruit them a little more actively than we've done in the past.
And the data shows 90% of them stay. So that's already shown that 90% of them are staying. So 9 out of 10 people graduating are staying in this area. So they're not leaving. So that's the other thing that we can go back on is to look at the exact numbers. That I know it might not be incentive, but this is even more incentive. I feel like if somebody invested in me, I got even more passion as far as giving back to the who gave to me. So I mean, I could see that 90% going up. That's the other thing too to that question. Any more questions? Thank you all. We appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys, yeah. Thank you.
Doing
Thank you
that.
for your
Taking
Thank you
passion.
guys very much for coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Sammy, Amanda, Jennifer, thank you. Going forward on this council, I'm going to be discussing this further with you to gauge what some of the sports are and some of the ideas. I think Councilman Farrell brings up a very good point that this is really only one part of something we need to come forward with so that there's long-term success and Middletown sees long-term success and the reward of it. However, staff does see this as a very worthwhile program, and if we're going to take some of our ARPA dollars and some of our like the county commissioner says, we need to take some of this additional ARPA dollars to put towards the disparate and the underserved citizens. I would rather see us do something preventative like this that prepares our youth to be successful going forward than to take several $100,000 and throw it at the homeless or the substance abuse problem that really doesn't solve the root problem. Yeah, Sammy. Yes, absolutely.
Just one more thing I forgot to mention too is that this is a type of program where we'll actually attract families to come here too as well. So that was something else I think we're not thinking about on that end is that if I'm looking at real estate and I'm seeing nice real estate, nice houses, I've seen a lot of great developments around here, particularly right by Middletown High School, right? They got a lot of great areas where people might be start looking at it, so like, is this somewhere where I might want to relocate to with all these great things right by, I can walkable range, I can come over and see it. So this is something else too that could actually attract families into Middletown to say, you know what, this is where I think we want to take roots because they're investing in our youth, investing in the future. So that's something else I didn't want to kind of leave out because what made me think about was Middletown Connect, and we've been a part of those kind of conversations too as well, thinking about the full spectrum of what happens to a kid from, you know, when they get out of Sunny Hill to now you're in high school. Now, what's the full paradigm to actually the whole wraparound service? And I think this is another piece that's missed on the full wraparound where we're doing a great job nurturing kids all the way up, but then once they become out of teenagers and they're getting into this high school age, we're losing them right there too. So I think this is another way where we can all work together as a community and help those students as well.
Well, and I appreciate, and well, I'll say one last thing. The only reason I went on a soapbox there is because I thought about this a year ago. I went to Hamilton and I kind of did a thing and I kind of tested. I went around and asked people on a Friday night, what brought you to Hamilton? I swear like 10 people, I don't know the exact number, right, but it was at least 10 that I talked to. They said that they came there because of the loan forgiveness of the $10,000 or whatever it was. And so I've long seen this as an opportunity to bring people from outside in. Obviously, we want to retain people, but to your point, I think this is a great program. It's just a part of it. And if we can use all these together, it's going to be successful.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Good. Council, next on the agenda for the city manager report is a couple months ago, we talked about some changes in our emergency legislation language, and our law director, Ben Yoder, is going to present that to you this evening. Ben?
Thank you, Council. I'll keep my comments brief. I know we had and will have a longer meeting tonight. So long story short, I took over as law director back in 2019. I inherited the practice, which you've seen at every council meeting, and frankly, as long as I can research back, it's always been the same way. When you get to the legislation part of the agenda, you always hear me or my colleagues saying, you know, requesting a motion to waive the charter provisions pertaining to second readings and effective dates. It turns out, you know, we kind of questioned why are we doing that, and it took us a while to figure out what's going on, and I think the answer to that is because that's the way we've always done it. Frankly, once I researched and I looked at the charter, which I can pull up, I believe it's the next slide, and I'll do just a quick little walkthrough on this as well. We can go to that next slide. So once I researched this, and I'll do that walkthrough, we really don't need to be doing that whatsoever. We can literally just cut that section out of the agenda. So just a very quick basic primer on how legislation's passed here. Our charter dictates that all ordinances and resolutions are to be passed by 2 readings and are only effective after the 31st date. However, there's an exception to that. That's what we always do, these emergency legislation, some of which is on the agenda tonight. And that's the bolded language that I did. This is out of Article 4, Section 3. So the first section, emergency ordinances and resolutions necessary for the preservation of public peace, health, safety, or property may be passed after 1 reading upon the affirmative vote of 3/4 of the members of City Council. Now, oftentimes people think, like, oh, an emergency means it's got to be an actual emergency. Where's the fire that we're trying to put out? That's not necessarily what that means. It's more, it's of such a important nature that that you can't wait for a second reading and/or for 30 days to pass before it becomes effective. That could be for a variety of reasons. But as you see from it right there, it just says that it can be passed on 1 reading, and it's, according to the bolded language in Section 4, it's effective immediately. So the whole concept, bluntly, of us at council meetings passing a motion to waive charter provisions as it pertains to second readings and effective dates on emergency legislation is unnecessary. It's just kind of a, form with no purpose. So it's my opinion that I'm completely comfortable with us just completely taking that out. It'll lead to less awkward moments between me and Vice Mayor Thomas going through the motions of figuring out which ones are emergencies and which ones aren't. And you can just seamlessly go from the motion agenda into legislation.
Now, if we were to decide, say, as that piece of legislation is being read, that we don't want to pass it as an emergency measure for whatever reason, or that we have issue with it being read as an emergency or only read 1 time as an emergency, then we as council, when that piece of legislation comes, can have that commentary and decide if we would like to handle it differently than is presented.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, for a true first reading emergency, it requires 3/4, which in a 5-member council requires 4 affirmative votes to do that. But if you want to pass something as a non-emergency, or if you want to pass it as a 2-reading emergency, it just depends on the number of votes you've got. But yeah, you can still do it however you want.
There we go. All it would do is take out that section where we have to read it before we vote on legislation.
Exactly.
The meeting protocol.
Exactly.
Well, what I'm hearing is that we don't have to read it regardless, so I'm not even sure what the effect that it's having right now.
It just means, quite literally, when we get to the section called legislation, instead of me saying, council, tonight we've got 12 items on the agenda for proposed or passage as an emergency or first or second reading, I just call for motion of that whole line that I say.
Right.
I literally just wouldn't do it. And instead I just say, you got 12 items on the legislative agenda. The first one is ordinance number, because everything that you need is packed into each individual piece of legislation. It's declaring in that piece of legislation what the emergency is. And if it's an emergency, there's no need to read it a second time. The charter explicitly says so. So it'll literally just take out that one motion that's passed.
I think Monica should have to read it until her term's over, and then at the beginning of the year, we start something new.
That's it. Just trying to save you all some time and take out some of the unnecessary formalities if you want to.
So that being said, we just move forward in that way if everyone
Yep.
is in
There's no need to
agreement
like
and
pass
no
some
need
motion to
pass
change
a
the way we've
motion
done
to
it
fa-
forever. No, you're just doing what the charter says. There's no need to formally adopt some procedure to change it. You just change it. Quite frankly, it's been this way for 4 years in part because I've tried to figure out how we got to the place where we were doing this in the first place. And it's like fighting our shadow. No one ultimately knows. And I think the answer is somewhat, because that's just the way we've always done it.
When I got here, there was a little script on the desk that is not here anymore, which is why I stumble so much with it sometimes, because I was used to there being a script, and it went away too. So I don't know if that was intentional or not, or just a coincidence, but the script isn't here anymore.
We just found it charming to watch you stumble through it. So.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's better to be more clear anyway, because I think honestly, we've said the incorrect thing more often than
You're
we've
right.
said the correct thing, and actually kind of voted on something that wasn't even quite right, and just went with it, and when we didn't really need it anyway, so.
Yeah, and kudos to you. You're finally who issue spotted. I'd seen it for a while, and once you said, hey, what are we doing? That's when we looked at it and found now was a good time to fix it.
Slightly shorter meetings, okay.
Good enough for me?
And I do want to point out, just like for the citizens as well, you know, the portion in the charter that says the reason for such emergency shall be stated in such ordinance or resolution. I mean, the last section of every ordinance gives the reasoning, and it traditionally, while quite bland, is slightly addressed. I appreciate as much explanation as possible from, you know, the staff to be putting in the ordinances as to why we're doing the emergency, just for clarity and transparency. So it's in there as to the reasoning on every ordinance, if anyone's wondering.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Okay, council, next on our city manager's report is to begin our budget presentation this evening. Excuse me. Tonight, I will cover the non-public safety budget presentation. And unfortunately, my 3 budget experts are not here this evening. However, I think I understand it fairly well, and if there's a question you have tonight that I can't answer, we certainly will get it to you in the next couple days, and then we actually also have some time before we do the first reading in November. So if we need to recover anything, we can do so at the next meeting once I consult with Sam. Our budget planner, Kevin Metz, resigned from his position with the city, and Nathan is at a conference in Austin, Texas, and Sam fell ill. We've had several city employees get ill here within the last couple weeks. I think some of it was COVID making a little bit of a comeback. So we'll go through it tonight and answer what questions you may have, and then cover anything that I'm not able to answer within the next days, and certainly at the next meeting. So to begin, I want to look at significant changes to the 2024 budget. The one thing I'm going to say is that we are very happy to tell you that we are presenting to you a balanced budget for 2024. And I believe that's the important thing. And a lot of that is to do with some hard work by city staff. And I'll talk about that here. But some of the significant changes we do have a proposed 3% cost of living increase for all non-union employees, along with the implementation of recommended adjustments to pay ranges and position placements per the comprehensive salary and benefit study that was done over the last year. That will be presented to you a little bit more in depth with the PBO changes at our next council meeting. Once again, as you know, when I came here in March of 2022, you know, we were losing city employees at an alarming rate. And one of the things we did identify was that we were falling behind in a lot of the human resources areas to other communities and other cities. So one of the things we identified was we needed to go in a direction to make the pay comparable to other communities. We did that in terms of getting closer with the 5% pay raise that you approved in the summer of 2022. And then as we see here, with the implementation of a 3% proposed cost of living increase for all non-union employees, and making adjustments in the pay ranges and the position payments per the salary and benefit study, once again, which we'll cover next meeting. We're getting very competitive with a lot of comparable cities of our size. All other cost of living raises are based on previously approved CBAs. Our share of health insurance costs remains steady, and that was a very positive thing for us. Budgeted income tax revenue for fiscal year 2024 is projected to decrease approximately 2.5% from budgeted fiscal year 2023. That really the cause is there. We have traditionally been very conservative in our projections for the upcoming budget year. We hope we stay at least level, but we want to be able to be prepared to cover our expenditures should we not be able to, or should we realize that 2.5% decrease. Also, the general fund expenditures proposed to decrease by about 13% compared to 2023, and this was largely due to a management-directed reduction in our non-personnel expenses to achieve a balanced budget. Essentially, we did this. We asked all of our department heads to reduce their non-personal services budget by at least 5%. And I really have to commend a lot of our department heads and the staff in each of the departments to identify areas we could cut back. So once again, we could do the things to try and keep an emphasis on our human resources and keep our budget balanced for 2024. So my hat is really off to the department directors for achieving this. Also, the utility rate study by Reftelis has been completed, and the recommendations that were previously presented to council are within the 2024 budget. Next slide, please. So our year-end 2023 budgeted general fund balance should be around $12,540,000, 451 or 33.2% of the general fund. By year-end 2024, our budgeted general fund balance projection will be, look at that, $7 higher, $12,544,57. 2024 increase in non-public safety personnel costs will be about $361,289, or 6.4% of the GF, and our 2024 increase in public safety personnel costs is projected right now to be about $569,733. We do have negotiations that will be beginning very soon with our firefighter unions, so that could change somewhat depending on the outcome of the negotiations. The next slide is an overall picture of each department and what 2024 versus the 2023 is, and I'll cover these individually here. That just gives you an overall overall look. Looking at City Council on the next slide, you will see that we maintain pretty much a balanced budget there, increase of about 0.1% for City Council. Looking at the next slide in the City Manager's office, the big increase there is moving the addition of the Assistant City Manager position from Development Services to the City Manager's office. And in 2024, we are going to begin a quarterly resident newsletter that will go out to our residents on a quarterly basis.
Do you mean a printed?
Excuse me?
Printed and
Printed,
mailed?
yes. Printed and Byron?
Right here?
Printed, right?
Printed
Yeah.
and digital.
Printed and digital.
I was just going to ask about that. So if it's digital, you have the option to opt out of the paper and not get it twice. If not, maybe give some thought to that.
Yeah, we'll give that some thought. Yep. The next slide covers our finance area. We'll see a decrease in our finance, administration, treasury, purchasing, taxation area by about 1.67%. Once again, these are due to very tough looks at the areas we could cut back in. to maintain a balanced budget. The next slide is information systems, and you'll see once again a little bit of an increase there of about 3.5%. Once again, as we're finding, this in this digital day and age, our technology costs are really increasing. We're going to see some things in areas of getting our body cameras on all of our police officers. We will have the 10 sergeants will be equipped with body cameras here in the next couple weeks, and then hopefully as we receive a grant, we'll do that to all of our officers in early 2024. Next slide is economic development, and that may look a little bit significant to you. And the big reduction there from 1.3 million to 808,000 is due to a planned reduction in legal costs once our Union and 122 project is complete, and we do not have any planned land acquisition for 2024. The airport. In the airport, we see a significant change from 2024 to 2023, and mostly that is due to we will be completing several projects out there by the end of 2023, and we'll see a significant savings there to the airport fund. Development services. You see in development services a little bit of a reduction, once again, mainly due to the removal of the position of assistant development services director and other professional services reduction, with no major planning projects scheduled for 2024. Public works and utilities. And once again, in these areas, in public works and utilities, you'll see the big reduction there in building maintenance. That will be because there'll be a reduction in cost compared to 2023, where the HVAC system and a few other projects will be completed. So we'll see some significant savings there. In our 2024 capital projects, once again, those will remain pretty much on target. The local street paving from the city funding will be $400,000. Other sources, $3.5 million, for a total cost of $3.9 million. And then the gateway enhancements we're looking at are $75,000, and traffic parks building work coming from city funding about $325,000. Our sewer funds, you see there a lot. You'll see once again we're trying to get to the point where we get the city pavers, and you'll see the city pavers, $300,000 are allotted for in several different funds. Hopefully in 2024 we'll be able to move forward with that project, already starting a few things in there. But once again, this building needs a lot of care and a lot of maintenance.
Could I ask a question before you move
Yes.
on? On the local street paving, I know we have those levy dollars coming in, and I'm guessing they're exceeding what we expected them to do. Do we have a plan for where those what we're going to do, when we're going to put those excess dollars into the paving? Am I making sense?
Yep.
I was actually getting ready to ask that. So.
Okay.
Yep. I think I know the answer, but I'm going to let Scott.
So the $3.5 million you see on the slide, that is in effect some of the excess money.
Okay. So just as it comes in, we're just
Right,
rolling
so
it.
from completing the project that we currently had underway, plus the excess that's coming in on a yearly basis,
Okay.
so.
So then, I guess, would I been right if I would have said we're putting that towards additional
Oh,
street
yes.
paving?
Oh, definitely.
Around
I just
town?
didn't know if we were going to wait and let it build up for, we don't know how much is coming in. If it's $100,000 and you wait for it to,
Right, I think, and I want to.
sounds like you're putting it in year by
I want to
year.
defer to the finance people, but I think it's doing pretty well.
Right.
Quite frankly.
So I guess the question, so is it Because I think the last time I talked to Nathan about it, he said it was a little over $3 million. So I'd assume where we're at right now is the $3.5 million.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
How many lane miles does that pave?
put me on the spot. Probably
You don't know this off the top of your head?
20-ish,
Okay.
give or take. I mean, it changes obviously with.
How many lane miles did we pave originally? Extra.
So through multiple projects, around 200.
Okay. So it's another 10% above what we. That's good.
It's a good thing to have that bucket of money to keep investing in that asphalt work and the roads, period. So,
Sounds good.
all right, thank you.
Okay. Getting into the sewer fund, once again, we'll use the money from the pavers there. The downtown basin project is underway, and then there'll be facility upgrades, system replacements, and other improvements in sewer fund infrastructure. Same with the water fund. I don't see anything really eye-popping there. If you have any questions, it's pretty much as it is every year with the various system replacements. The water storage tank will be the big one, and fundings from grants and loan services of the $7 million. Stormwater fund, once again, is pretty much running as it has in 2023. And then the last one, the special revenue and enterprise fund, our city income tax, as you will see, looking at transfers and from other funds, will be at about 33.9 million. The auto and gas tax, 3.6 million. That decrease will mainly be due to paving not being transferred in there. The health fund, once again, that decrease in there comes from looking at ways we could cut the non-personnel cost. We will need to make some adjustments. We did see today in the health department budget, there might be a couple things we left out, but it won't change those numbers drastically, and we'll have that correction. And the same thing with the municipal courts. Had a discussion with Steve Longworth and the judge today, how we transferred some of the personnel cost in a couple of those funds might not be the best way to do that, and the judge and Steve called that to my attention this morning. So we're going to make some adjustments there, but it won't change the overall bottom line of our 2024 budget. And then nuisance abatement, little bit of a reduction there. Ashley, do you recall we had that discussion earlier what the main?
Yeah, so nuisance abatement, our mowing contractors, they were bid in 2020. That was long before inflation occurred, and those prices will be rising again as we will be bidding out, or rebidding, I should say, in 2024. We did have one more year where we could have the contractors stay at their current rates if they all agreed. However, they did not and wanted to rebid in 2024.
Okay. And then water fund, storm fund, and sewer fund, once again, looking at ways we could save and keep a balanced budget, made some adjustments there. So that's all I have to present right now for the non-public safety. Are there any questions that I may be able to answer for you?
I have to admit, I highlighted and wrote a bunch of things on it, and I left it at an FBO in Mississippi this weekend.
Thank God. No, I'm teasing.
So for better or worse, city staff, I don't have them in front of me. It's on its way in the mail to me, though. Funny enough, I ran into Kevin, who works with the same company that runs our FBO. He greeted the plane when we landed. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, out in Tupelo. So anyway, okay. Long story. I have some more questions. I'm just going to put them in an email. But I did have one that I was just looking real closely or quickly through. Just the finance, and I just looked. I don't think it was on the slides, but in the packet. I know it's one that I had written down, but I'll just ask it now. So the finance, it looks like the, I believe the personnel costs.
Yep. In finance, you'll see the personnel costs will go up due to the salary and benefit study, trying to be comparable or getting us close to being comparable to other communities.
Okay,
Once again, which we'll
'Cause it
cover
was
that a
up
little
a
bit in
lot.
depth. Yep.
okay.
That's where you're talking finance administration,
Yes,
5.8%.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, Paul, after your first year doing this, and Sam and everybody else that's kind of moved up in the city, I think you guys did a really good job with what I've seen so far. And I know last year there were some things that I questioned, but I think you guys did a really thorough job on this, and I just wanted to say thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, last year, I was kind of like the deer caught in the headlight a little bit and, kind of didn't fully understand how some of the things worked. And I think Sam has done a wonderful job. Kevin Metz, he was a big loss for us, but they did a wonderful job. And Nathan, with his background knowledge. And then once again, I can't thank our department heads enough for the lack of a better cliche, sharpening their pencils and seeing what they could do. Once again, and it makes it to where we can put some of our resources to human resources, and while pay isn't the primary motivator to come to work, it certainly is a big one. And I think we've done a lot there, and we've done a lot to improve the morale in the building, and I think there's good things ahead. And thank you.
And I'll preface, when I send my email with the questions, a lot of it is just that this is so high level that I don't even know what's included in half of these line items. And so every year I end up saying, okay, what is actually in that? So it's more of a helping me to understand what the line items even mean, just because it's really just a bunch of numbers on paper at the end of the day. I don't even know where half of the budgetary items are actually filed underneath these. So I know I just like to kind of understand that to a better extent.
Yeah, we can, it's
There's
certainly.
no need to take action now. I'm just telling you, when I write it to you, it's really, I'm asking, like, what is that? I might say, like, what are the memberships we even have for whatever department it might be, because I sometimes have a hard time wrapping my brain around what that even might look like. So it's more a little bit out of curiosity.
I tried to read it like last year when I first came in, and you talk about, I fell asleep every time. I'm, like an accountant, I'm not.
Any comments or questions from council at this point? Anything else, Mr. Lawley, for our city manager?
The only other thing I wanted to bring up is I would like to, if possible, have a special meeting of council an hour before the next council meeting at 4:30 to discuss the community center and what staff would, a plan that staff would like to bring forward to council on what we think we should do at the community center. So, I kind of thought if we did it an hour before the October, 17th meeting, as opposed to taking a Saturday, would that be okay? Or would you want us to look for a different date?
Not a Saturday.
Yeah.
I'm good with an hour.
That works for me.
Yeah.
Personally.
Is that okay? Okay, what I'll get with you, I'll need two of you to send Amy
send
an
an
email
email right now.
requesting a special meeting. And then what we'll do is bring forward what staff recommendations, and then, of course, what are your thoughts might be for the additional $2 million we've received from the Butler County commissioners. Do we want to put any of that towards the community center, or we have some ideas for some other programs. We've had a request from a few of the cities who received money, Hamilton, Fairfield, Oxford, and a couple others, to maybe pool the money and put towards the social issues that are plaguing the region. I'm going to a meeting Thursday with Hamilton's city manager and other city managers to kind of discuss what those ideas are, and we'll see.
All right, is 4:30 enough time for us to go over that, or do we want to
I
start
think
at
it's
4
it's
o'clock?
good for a start.
Okay.
So you want it
I mean,
to
if you
discuss
if
both
you
this-
if you think you need more time and want to start at 3:30, that's
I was just going to suggest an extra half an hour, 4 o'clock, if
4
that
o'clock.
is enough time.
I think you.
I don't want to cut the conversation
Okay.
short, because I mean, I wasn't here for the last meeting when that came about. I don't know if there was any discussion.
I'll let you guys make the call.
Is it going to be more of you guys are going to present? We're just going to say, okay, and we'll talk about it later. Is this going to be it?
No, I think it's you're going to have some choices to make. We sat down, staff, and then we you guys who are on the committee, we had a couple of those people in there to see, hey, what do you guys think we should do going forward? We had some good ideas thrown at us, but I'll be honest with you, it's going to be a challenging decision for you.
So have Commissioners Cindy, Don, and TC, have they come back and put their restrictions on what?
No, not yet. Judy Boyko is supposed to give us further direction on that soon.
So is it really worth having the discussion without knowing what our limitations
Yeah,
are?
I'm pretty comfortable that their initial definition of what that is and what we may be trying to do will fall under, helping the underserved in our community.
Okay.
It would be helpful to at least have a couple days advance notice on what some of those options might be. 'Cause
Okay.
I feel like sometimes we come in here and
I
it's
agree.
like, bam, here it is, make a decision.
Yep.
And that's hard to do.
I'm hoping we'll receive more communications from Judy Boyko by the end of the week, and I'll certainly get those to you as soon as it arrives to us. And we'll press them in the next day or two for that.
Are you thinking something like Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, or is it going to be like, here we are, like we originally did
Yes.
with the community center?
Kind of, I think we're not going to have 3 different options for you. We may have 2 different options.
Okay.
The option C would be to do nothing.
Okay.
That's what I'm
Good
kind of
job.
thinking after our initial discussions.
Okay.
I'm not trying to be evasive. I just don't.
Is what it is.
I don't have anything definite. Essentially, we want to do something there. And, is it a simple remodel or is it a remodel and some type of an addition to further some programs there to keep some of the monies that have been committed. So far, what we do know is we have what the city's commitment was of 2.1, the county's initial commitment, and some of the state's money, and hopefully, well, I'm pretty sure by that meeting I'll have a good idea also after talking with Verlina and Stephen Hightower, what of the other raised money we'll be able to put towards the project. So,
Has
do we
has
do
the
that?
foundation said?
What's that?
Has the foundation said whether they're willing to leave their?
That will depend on what types of programs we run there.
Okay.
And we hope to have a definite answer on that, certainly by the special meeting.
Okay.
And, and there may be a discussion that we do some type of marrying of some things we might be able to do there and do out at the Central Connections building. Maybe open up some room for some programs there and put CBI offices out there. We'll see. We're running a whole host of ideas right now.
Option D.
Well, yeah, you got me there.
So I was going to put a special meeting request in for the 17th at 4 p.m.
4 p.m.
And is it to cover, now I'm hearing 3 topics, community
Well-
center, senior center, and
No, it's to
Funds for the
discuss the
underserved.
community center.
community center?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. That's not to say an idea couldn't be discussed that, well, why don't we move that out to the
Is
Central
it also
Connect?
to discuss the use of recently allocated county funds for the underserved, or is that in relation to the community
I
center?
think it's been,
I think special meetings, you have to explicitly state the purpose for what you're meeting on, and you can only stay on those topics. So my advice would be, the broader the topics that you
So
might
if I
want to
can
discuss.
reference the community center, the senior center, and the recently allocated county funds for
Sure.
the underserved.
or do you need to get even more broader on all funds that have been allocated
Or
for the
you
project?
could just say, utilization of ARPA remaining ARPA funds. However broad you
Yeah,
want.
I
but
do
then that
want the
doesn't-
intent, though, if people want to listen in, like that they know what we're talking about, and also that we stay on topic in some semblance of,
Yeah.
because it's not all ARPA, right?
Right.
Correct, it's not. I mean, that's kind of a
Right.
catch-all umbrella because it is all ARPA. But yeah, if you want to narrow it down, I don't mind what you had written, Mayor.
Okay, we'll say the community center, the senior
Use of
center.
ARPA funds as they relate to the community center.
Okay,
But
thank
to
you.
be clear, the main focus is
Is the community
Sunny Hill. I don't want
Yes,
people
sir.
confused.
Correct, yeah.
showing
Yes,
up
sir.
to talk about something when that's not, it might be an ancillary item and
I
not.
could see the underserved funds getting a lot of attention that, regardless, we'll state what we're meeting for.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor.
Okay, anything else for city manager report?
That's all.
Thank the Lord. All
I'm
right.
done.
We'll move on to the consent agenda. Ms. King, could you please present that for us?
For consideration this evening, we have the approval of the city council minutes from October 4th, 18th, and the 27th, and November 1st from 2022. Receive and file the board and commission minutes of the planning commission from August the 9th, 2023, Civil Service Commission of August 17th, 2023, and the Airport Commission of August 21st, 2023, to confirm the promotional appointments of Colton Grow to the position of equipment operator in the Department of Public Works and Utilities, Division of Street Maintenance, and Benjamin Westfall to the position of executive account clerk in the Department of Finance, Division of Treasury, and to receive and file an oath of office for Alicia Shawdary.
I would like to move that the matters listed in the consent agenda be considered routine and enacted by one motion and one vote of consent.
Second?
Ms. King, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mr. Condrey,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
No motion agenda. Mr. Yoder, would you please present the
No motion.
legislation?
No motion agenda. Yep. Under our new process, I'll just go straight into it. So you've got 12 legislative items. First one's ordinance number O-2023-81, an ordinance changing the zoning classification for the parcel located at 1303 to 1307 Woodlawn Avenue from I-1 Industrial Park District to R4 Attached Residential District. This is a second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second?
Okay, now I get to invite James Metz, our city planner, up to go over the legislative item here.
Good afternoon, City Council. So as you know, we have a request by applicant Adarsh Mani for a map amendment and zone change at 1303 to 1307 Woodlawn Avenue. The property is currently zoned I-1. The applicant is requesting it to be zoned R4. Initially, when it was built, it was a mixed-use building. The lower level was retail. It has also been a meeting call, and most recently, it was industrial manufacturing and assembly, which is why it has the I-1 zone change. That happened back in the 1990s. The last 3 years, the property has been vacant on the lower level, and the upper floor has been residential. And on July 12th, 2023, Planning Commission recommended approval of the map amendment from I-1 to R4. The applicant is present. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer.
And James, we talked about at the Planning Commission, I think it was asked that the original use of that property was residential. It was, when it was originally built, residential, correct?
The upper floor was residential, and the lower floor, when it was originally built, was some type of retail goods on the first floor. There's 2 tenant spaces, like an A and a B, and then it's changed from retail to a meeting call, and then from a meeting call.
So it was never residential?
Never residential on the lower floor. Correct. I think it was originally a B1, and then it changed to an I1 during the 1990s to allow for the industrial manufacturing and assembly.
Okay.
And this might be a better question for him, and I was meant to research it and I forgot. What year was this purchased? Or when?
I believe 3 years ago, but I'd like to defer to the applicant. He is present.
I mean, if the applicant, if you'd like to come up and speak to us about the request, we're happy to hear from you.
Thanks, James.
Oh, yeah, just if you can just state your name and address for the record, that would be helpful.
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. My name is Adarsh Mani. I bought this building about 4 years back, And the bottom was a meeting hall, like James suggested. And it was some Alcoholic Anonymous, and there was some kind of a bikers club over there. But then it was shut down, and it's been shut since then. I've got plans done by the architect. James has a copy of that too. It's sitting outside Larry Tottle's office. I'm requesting it to be changed to a residential, just the bottom floor, because everything on that side, if you look at the zoning map, is a residential. The only I zone is opposite on the Woodlawn. There was a big industry there, but anything and everything where my building and the parking lot is a residential.
So you've owned this property for, you said 4 years, correct?
Yes, sir.
And then, so you have 2 units upstairs, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you're meaning to put 2 units downstairs?
So there's one big parcel. It's 513-515 Curtis and 1303, 1305, 1307 Woodlawn. It's the corner property.
Okay.
And the 513-515 Curtis, including the downstairs, that's the street level, and the upstairs is residential.
Okay.
And adjacent parcel, which is 1303, 1305, 1307, upstairs is the residential, downstairs is the I-1 zone.
And so each of the upstairs units, what rents do those bring in for you currently?
I would say it depends. One is rented as a Section 8, which is $1,600 to $1,700, including everything included. It's a 3-bedroom.
Okay.
And the one other side is $1,200.
Okay. And so when you read, so you have plans drawn up by the architect?
Yes, sir.
Which architect was that?
There are 2 architects. I forget the name. It's the nicer one.
Okay. I know Dennis Beatty does a lot of work, but.
That's exactly who.
Okay. So so what's your estimated investment into this if we were to approve this?
So I bought the whole 2 parcels, the 513, 515 for $155,000. And I'm thinking about 30 to 40 grand each unit.
Okay.
And it'll fetch me about $1,200 to $1,400. Exact replica of what we've got on the top, of course, will be updated with the city's blessing, with all the plumbing and the electric updated to today's.
And would you plan to do more Section 8 renting in this, or?
So I work with a lot of Warren County, the homeless shelters.
Mm-hmm.
There is a tremendous lack of residential, maybe 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms. And we are all about serving the unfortunate or the underserved. And that's how the Warren County contacts me, and then they get an apartment over there rented. For the first 6 months, the Warren County actually funds that.
Mm-hmm.
And if they come in straight on and they follow all the rules and everything, then they get on their feet and they start paying rent. That's the normal system.
Mm-hmm.
I am open to anyone. I don't think I have a personal preference. I run it as a business, fair and square, with no discrimination. Whoever applies, and we have just a basic of picture ID and 6 weeks of pay stubs and 2.5 times of the rent. That's all we ask for. And it's just, I mean, that whole ordeal has taken me 18 months to come up with this. And I am about 1.5 hours away from here. So I couldn't make it last time. I'm sorry.
Understandable. Okay.
Thank you.
No problem. Can I just sit?
Yes, sure.
Thank you guys for hearing.
My feeling about this is properties like this are, with the mixed use, are what create vibrant neighborhoods. And I think that's where this was at one point. I think they're critical to revitalization. We have to have these mixed use places. If you look at all neighborhoods that are revitalizing anywhere, they have some sort of a business component on these little corner stores, and it's part of what creates neighborhood pride. It's what had pride in this neighborhood at one point in time. I think there hasn't probably been success in it yet because the neighborhood is not revitalized. But I think by turning these into residential, we're essentially telling this neighborhood that we've given up on them. And I haven't given up on it. And I'm not willing to change the zoning because I haven't given up. And I think we had a big economic development win very close by not too long ago. And I see things changing, and I think this is a step backward. So I'm not in favor of the zoning change. I see exactly where this is going, and while I understand the business model, I don't think it's one that I want to support in that neighborhood. So.
I agree. I think it needs rezoned, but probably not to residential. I think it probably needs a business classification of some sort, because I don't think industrial is necessarily what we want there either, but.
We did confirm that zoning does allow for retail as well. However, yes, I would support a business zoning change.
I guess I struggle, and I kind of look to Zach as being our real estate guy. You know, do you see a lot of revitalization of these little, very small pockets of, I guess, business spots in these older buildings, in these older neighborhoods, creating the revitalization that we're talking about? I mean, I'm just trying to think realistically with respect to all of the factors.
To me, this is, which maybe it sounds ironic, but this is the most difficult vote that I'm kind of torn on ever up here, because it solves a need, but at the same, progress is only progress when someone doesn't get left behind, right? And I don't know that we're leaving someone or a group or a neighborhood behind because someone is sticking money into a neighborhood that has traditionally has not had as much money put into it than other neighborhoods in Middletown right now. So I'm trying to balance that. At the same time, it was bought with this zoning, and whenever I buy something personally, investment-wise, I always look and see what the zoning is, and if I buy something, make it contingent upon a zoning change before I buy it. So I'm looking at it from both perspectives. Obviously, it sounds like the vote's going to fail, so it doesn't really matter at this point, but that's kind of my thoughts.
I just come back to the map amendment review criteria, and it doesn't, in my mind, satisfy that. I don't think it would be an improvement to the neighborhood, certainly not to the public health of the neighborhood itself. Because in this case, we're talking about bringing new residents to the neighborhood that didn't exist there. So it doesn't help the health of the existing residents in that neighborhood to add these.
I mean, if those residents were not formerly Middletown residents and they're moving to Middletown, we're talking about, you know, they have income and they have...
We're not talking about people with income. We're not talking about adding them to this. That's very clear. I mean, I think he's said straight out, but that's not the intent, so... Anyway, that's just why I'm obviously very decided on this, but. Certainly, yeah.
So I have been through that road several times, the Woodlawn and the Curtis. Even if you do not change it, which I respect your opinion, I have been into convenience stores. I have run businesses of convenience stores. Assuming if you do give me a business license too, there is no way that a business would run over there. In terms of opining about my Section 8 or Warren County help, like I explained to you, there are people who have jobs and who also rent from me as well. I would request you to just look at as an aerial view. There is no way, and I'm not saying 99% no way, but 90 to 95% no way, no businesses would run there.
Can I ask why you purchased the property then, if that's the zoning?
With the intent of 4 apartments over there, ma'am. There are, and I'm just asking to convert, there's total 6 spaces, 4 are already apartments, 2 are just remaining over there empty. And that's what I'm coming to the citizens' comments where they talk about trespassing and burning and squatters and drug activity, all that. When the spaces are empty and we revitalize that space and convert it residential, even the people who live there look out for that community or the surrounding neighborhoods. That will disallow bad things happening in that neighborhood. That's my opinion, and that's what the gentleman says is progress.
Well, I do think the fact that you've had an architect in there and done these types of things, it does sound like no matter who your end tenant is, because you never know that, you can't forecast in real estate, but you are trying to do things the right way. I do appreciate that. I personally agree. I think it's going to be difficult to get a commercial business in there. Obviously, you knew that going in, that was a risk, when you, just like I do. So I speak the same language as you. Overall, I do think that you are solving a need of the general population. Because I think reading between the lines, you are saying that that's what it's going to. It is going to help somebody that was homeless or in need or was battered or something like that.
Not necessary. Not necessary.
Potentially, right.
No, I mean, there's a shortage of residential apartments anyhow. There's extreme shortage.
Mm-hmm.
So even if a person like me comes and has a job in local city of Middletown looking for a 3-bedroom, there's not very many available.
Right. So, I mean, I think I'll vote yes, is what I'm going to say, because I do think it solves a need. I mean, I I understand where you all are coming from, and, just because one person's opinion.
If a commercial business would run there, I would not come here. I would rent it out to a commercial business. I'm in a business of renting, may it be residential or commercial. There is that neighborhood is not meant to be for a professional office. May it be a dentist. I'm a dentist by profession. May it be a dentist, a lawyer, realtor, not that sort. If you want to have a B2 business like a convenience store, that's not going to work there.
There was a barber shop there in 2009, according to the Google history maps, just for reference.
Right, but it's too huge to afford for a barber shop. It's massive. I mean, that's my opinion. Of course, you guys are going to decide, but progress is what it is. It's a change. Anyways, thank you guys.
Yeah, I guess I just struggle as a small business owner with the same sort of logic. Like, if there was going to be a business there, maybe there would have already.
Right, because the neighborhood's just not revitalized, and that's where, when we make decisions like this, these are the future of Middletown, and it's how certain neighborhoods stay disenfranchised and low income, because we allow these things to happen. And I think this is it's interesting how it's one vote on one zoning change, and we've obviously, like you said, it's a difficult decision. I know, but I look at these cities that Hamilton is revitalizing. It is taking places like that and finding businesses to go into them, and it is revitalizing neighborhoods. Now, it's not easy, but it takes decisions like this to say, we have faith in our city, and we have faith that it will rejuvenate.
Yeah, with all due respect, though, I don't think that me voting yes is meaning that I don't have faith in the city.
This is how I'm saying I view it, right? Because to me, it's bigger than one zoning change.
Oh, I agree. That's why I'm making a big point about this. But this is not a lack of faith in a city. It's solving a need, and it is putting money into an area, whether it's electricians, plumbers, et cetera, drywallers. I mean, this is pumping money into an economy, and if the area does continue to go up, let's be honest, this is why I've said that Middletown needs revitalized. The more the values go up, people like you, other investors, they start selling stuff off. There's a threshold when you say it no longer makes sense to hold this because it's more valuable to sell it off. So I think that's something that's to be considered. I don't think this one little parcel is the difference in that neighborhood. I truly don't.
I also see it as a form of investment in this neighborhood that building and that neighborhood hasn't seen a whole lot of. And so that's sort of the struggle. Is it an investment or is it not an investment? I think when you've got somebody up here who's saying, if I get this zoning change, I'm going to put money into this building, I'm going to improve it, I'm going to make it better than it is right now and more productive than it's been for the last I don't know how many years. I mean, even with a small barber shop in there, I can't imagine that it was generating much. Obviously, it wasn't successful enough to still be there. So you look at those sort of factors. If something could be successful there, maybe it already would have been. So I guess regardless of how the vote goes, we're split right now. So with only 4 of us here, it'd be difficult to pass. But that's just, I guess, how I feel like it boils down for me. And I appreciate your insight as well, and just in terms of the types of properties that you've invested in and see investment in and see the potential for investment in. So
I appreciate it. I know that if I own the property, that I would do the same thing that you're doing personally. I think it's the only way to make financial sense.
And if there was a group of a neighborhood, 5 buildings together, and I understand the city revitalizing the whole neighborhood, I get it. But in that whole neighborhood,
Right, and Hamilton took the approach of buying up multiple properties to change neighborhoods. You can't, that to my original point, you can't do that with one specific
it's
property.
only one building. There's not a lot of density there to create a pocket. It's just
Right.
difficult.
Okay.
Does anyone have any other comments? Okay. Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey,
No.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
No.
Thank you. Second item on the agenda is ordinance number O-2023-84, an ordinance authorizing an American Rescue Plan Act Infusion Grant Program Agreement with Crooked Dog LLC for the acceptance of American Rescue Plan Act funds as a provision of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue and declaring an emergency. This is a second reading.
So move for adoption.
Second.
No further comments.
Any comments or questions from council? I appreciate that it looks like they're doing a lot of social media stuff surrounding their project, which is awesome to see. I like the movement, and it helps promote Middletown and that we have progress moving forward, so I'm happy for them. Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Third item is ordinance number O-2023-85, an ordinance authorizing an American Rescue Plan Act Infusion Grant Program Agreement with Frontier Motors, Inc. for the acceptance of American Rescue Plan Act funds as a provision of government services to the extent of a reduction in revenue and declaring an emergency. Again, a second reading.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Mr. Lawley,
No-
anything?
No further comments.
Any comments or questions from council? Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Fourth item is ordinance number O-2023-86, an ordinance authorizing an American Rescue Plan Act Infusion Grant Program Agreement with Second and Main Studios LLC for the acceptance of American Rescue Plan Act funds, a provision of government services to the extent of reduction in revenue and declaring an emergency. Again, a second reading.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Anything to
No
add,
further comments.
council? Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Oh, I don't want to leave out as well, I did mention at the last meeting, they also are doing a lot to promote their project, so it looks really good. Sorry.
Fifth item is ordinance number O-2023-87, an ordinance authorizing an American Rescue Plan Act Infusion Grant Program Agreement with Empowerment Therapy LLC for the acceptance of American Rescue Plan Act funds as a provision of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
No further comments.
Council? Okay, Ms. Skank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Sixth item is ordinance number O-2023-88, an ordinance authorizing an American Rescue Plan Act Infusion Grant Program Agreement with Tri-County Management, Inc. for the acceptance of American Rescue Plan Act funds as a provision of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue and declaring an emergency. Second reading.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
No further comments?
Council? Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Seventh item is ordinance number O 2023-89, an ordinance authorizing an American Rescue Plan Act grant agreement with Light Up Middletown, Inc. for the acceptance of American Rescue Plan Act funds as a provision of government services to the extent of the reduction in revenue. This is a second reading but not proposed as an emergency.
So moved for adoption.
Second?
No further comments?
Council? Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Eighth item is ordinance O 2023-90, an ordinance establishing a procedure for and authorizing a contract with B.D. Morgan and Company, Inc. to repair the concrete columns at the city building. Second reading.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
This is for the repair of the exterior columns of the city building we discussed at last meeting.
Any comments or questions from council? Okay, Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Abstain?
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Next item is it's resolution number R 2023-28, a resolution determining that the establishment of the Renaissance Arena District New Community Authority will be conducive to the public safety, convenience, and welfare, and is intended to result in the development of a new community, declaring the Renaissance Arena District New Community Authority to be organized as a body politic and corporate, defining the boundaries of the new community district, appointing board members, and declaring an emergency.
So moved for adoption.
Second.
Council, the only other thing I have to add on this, this resolution is another very important step in the continuation of the Renaissance Point project at 122 and Union Road.
Questions, comments? Okay, Ms. Gank, will you please call the roll?
Mrs. Thomas,
Yes.
Mr. Moon,
Yes.
Mayor Condrey,
Yes.
Mr. Farrell,
Yes.
10th item is ordinance number O 2023-91, an ordinance authorizing a contract with Geotechnical Consultants, Inc. for material testing and inspection services for the new Middletown Fire Service Headquarters and Satellite Stations project and declaring an emergency.
So moved for adoption.
Second?
Council, this is to begin some of the groundwork, the inspection and testing services for the headquarter station and all the other satellite stations going forward.
I guess my only question is, it says that funds are available in the street levy fund, but we need to do this anyway. Why do it this way instead of the other way? Why not use not the street levy funds, the fire station levy funds?
It's a good question. I thought.
You're talking about which funds?
I don't know. I'm going to have to get back with
It
you.
just says
on
a
that.
supplemental is needed
Yeah.
even though fire levy funds are available. So it was just kind of,
I thought it meant we have to get a supplemental appropriation from that fund. Ben, is that?
I don't know the answer to this question, how that came to be.
I see it's an emergency and we need to pass it, so I'll
I
trust that you know what you're doing.
I interpreted that as we're trying to appropriate the monies, just that amount from these funds.
Just from the street, or from the
Yes.
fire
It does
station
say
fund.
from the fire station levy
Okay.
fund.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that, I apologize. That's what caught me off guard.
Okay.
Maybe it's just the language. It's not
Yeah.
a supplemental appropriation, but rather just an appropriation of funds.
Well, we call it a supplemental from that fund.
I got it. It makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, I see where you're. Any other questions? Okay, Ms. Kane, could you please call the roll?
Mr. Moon?
Yes.
Mayor Condrey?
Yes.
Mrs. Thomas?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
11th item is ordinance number O 2023-92, an ordinance providing for the termination of a tax increment financing exemption previously authorized by this council pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 5709.40B, in ordinance number O 2005-142, as amended by ordinance number O 2015-81, declaring the improvements of certain real property located in the city of Middletown, Ohio, to be a public purpose in connection with the establishment of a tax increment financing exemption pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 5709.41, declaring such property to be exempt from real property taxation, designating improvements to be made that will benefit such property, requiring the owners thereof to make service payments in lieu of taxes, establishing an urban redevelopment tax increment equivalent fund for the deposit of such service payments, authorizing a compensation agreement to be executed between the city, the Franklin City School District, and the Warren County Career Center, together with related authorizations, and declaring an emergency. No actions requested until the October 17th meeting.
Council, this creates the new TIP district to facilitate the funding of the planned public improvements for the Renaissance Point Middletown Entertainment Center project. Do you have any further questions? Okay.
All right, hearing none, moving on to ordinance number O 2023-93, an ordinance amending sections 1040.03, 1042.02, and 1042.05 of the Middletown Codified Ordinances establishing sewer and water rates. This is a first reading.
Council, this is the beginning of the implementation of the presentation that was made to you for the water and sewer fund increases for 2024.
Have we received any feedback? I know the presenter said that they were going to speak with some of the major, the companies that were going to be impacted the most.
We have a meeting scheduled with one company. We have not received any other, anyone reaching out to us from any other companies. Is that correct, Scott, or you're left? I have had initial conversations with one of the others. Okay. We do have a meeting scheduled with one of the companies next week.
If staff gets any feedback from any of those companies, I would love to read, hear.
We'll get,
see
yeah,
whatever
we'll
that
get
might be.
feedback from the largest user here in the next week.
Thank you. Okay, I believe that brings us to new business. Does anyone have any new business items this evening? I'm still very interested in the hotel tax fund. And I was wondering if we have any updates on if Wayland has been back in town or working on their study or what is going on.
Jacob, are you still here?
We're a little bit here.
Oh, Alicia's here. Do you have any update or?
Sorry, not to put you on the spot, it's like the regular things that I'm kind of thinking of and aren't hearing a lot about, so.
Mayor, council, just about 2 weeks ago, we had been in conversation with some members of Wayland's team to work on some of their consulting stuff, particularly as it relates to the Manchester and Snyder. As you may recall, in the previous agreement, during this kind of duration window, they're looking through a lot of consulting work. So market rate studies, feasibility analysis, that sort of stuff. So about a couple weeks ago, we had been in contact with them, looking at different ways to kind of particularly look at the Manchester and Snyder as it relates to the actual building itself. So we had been in contact with Historical Society and some other members to get the Manchester Inn, some of the plans for the Manchester Inn to provide to them. So that was provided to them. We've also been looking through some other different renderings and things of the like that we can work with them to try to help get the ball rolling on some of that stuff there. So once I get kind of the overall plans for those buildings and to really be able to see on paper what they can move around and stuff to get some concepts, to get back with us. But over the summer, we got that executed, obviously, by you all, and just trying to work through that.
Cool. Thank you, appreciate
Absolutely.
I had the Atticus written down too. I know we recently helped in some fashion to get them moving forward. Are they still on track? I think we waived something, did we?
He called me like 3 weeks ago and said that they plan to start before winter. That's all I know. I don't know if he called you guys.
Let me get Nathan. He's had contact with them. I think things are proceeding in terms of what we were working on with them in regards to some of the abatements they wanted, and Warren County was working with them on the water. So let me have Nathan get you an email to what his last conversation was with Jordan next week.
Okay.
Or I'll get it when he's back Thursday, so I'll have him give you an update on that.
He did also tell me that he had multiple letters of intent for that commercial, whatever it is, 1.3 acres right there in front. So that's exciting news.
Yeah, I don't.
He had no plans for it yet when we last, I think he last was in front of us. He just said in theory, so that's good to hear.
Haven't heard anything on that at all.
Yeah, I do get questions about that because he put the sign up for the commercial lot, and people are thinking, oh, well, now he's not doing the proposal, he's just trying to sell the land.
Right.
So there is some.
I mean, they've cleared it and everything, so I know he wants
They
to.
cleared it for the
Oh, did
purpose
they?
of selling the
Okay.
commercial lot.
Yep.
Hopefully, there's a little bit more attention on that lot with things moving forward with the event center, so.
Yeah, I'd say that's probably what sparked it, really.
And the last topic I was thinking of were the neighborhood organization and where I don't know what the next steps are on that or how we're.
What's that? No, or the neighborhood reorganization where we gave the money, the ARPA money. So I think did you receive one RFP on it? Okay.
So we did receive one RFP, but it was for the tune of about $300,000. And I know that we've been reducing the ARPA money in that line item for the neighborhood, maybe to fulfill other projects that the city has going on. So I know that's kind of just sitting right now, but we only did receive one RFP response, and it was pretty pricey.
Yep. So one thing we did is when we were hit with the $9 million overrun on the fire stations, we kind of put a halt on moving further with some of the other encumbered ARPA funds to see where council wanted to land with that. But now that we have an idea of how we're going to push forward with there, we'll go back and revisit that.
I mean, is it worth allowing the Ohio Is group to kind of expand their efforts more fully? I know they're ready and willing to do so, and I feel like we're kind of dragging on the other side. If we've got a group ready to help with it, I'd like to see it move forward.
Honestly, Deborah and I, looking at the plan, a large portion of the amount of that $300,000 was public outreach. And I know that Ohio Connect is starting to expand into other neighborhoods.
Right.
They're doing a lot of great neighborhood outreach. So we were hoping to partner with them and try to use that neighborhood outreach to take that amount down. Because it was probably close to about ballpark 100,000 of that plan, which neighborhood outreach is the most important part of a neighborhood plan, but hopefully partnering with those folks and reducing that cost, we could get something off the ground.
Yeah.
But it sounds like maybe we can start to look to move forward to using that funding now that we might not be using it all to support other projects.
And I have a meeting next Tuesday with Christy Durish to talk about that also.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. Great. Anything else? I have a long list, but that's good.
You're fine. That's good.
Okay, well, with that, we will adjourn until, I did send a special meeting request, so we will then be here for a special meeting at 4 p.m. on October 17th here in Council Chambers, followed by a regularly scheduled meeting at 5:30 p.m. So until then, blue skies over Middletown.
Thank you, sir. So you don't want any books going forward?
Monica, I didn't cut you off from saying something about one of those grants.